Welcome everybody back to the Horror Chata podcast. It is me, D Notes.
And Jess.
So for those who are wondering, we've been on hiatus for a small time, like a
It
month.
feels like forever
Yeah,
already.
it's been a while.
Yeah, it feels weird to be back on, but I finally graduated, so
So
I,
sick. Congrats.
thank you. Clap, clap. I
Hell
did the
yeah,
damn thing, so
you did a major
um,
thing.
yes, yes, I did. So I'm happy that's over with, and I can finally focus on podcasts and work. So I'm
So what
excited.
are some of your plans in the future, if I may
I think I
ask?
just want to focus on this podcast, and I want to really try to get into screenwriting. I don't know how I'm gonna do that, but eventually I want to write a movie, which sounds crazy.
Ooh, we should do
Either a
that.
movie or
I got a
yeah,
couple of scripts already. Well, not
yeah.
done, but working on it.
Wait,
So, like I said, hiatus for about a month, and this deserves a little
for being back on.
for being back on. We made it.
Yes, yes. And since we've been gone, I wanted to mention quickly a few movies that I watched, which The Black Phone. I
Hmm.
watched Nope. Those two movies were really good, especially for me, The Black Phone, because I think it's like a quintessential horror movie. Nope
Yeah,
was way more different.
I love the story to it. It was like I don't know. I felt like it was pretty original.
Hmm.
I know like I know kidnappings happen all the time, and it's been used in cinematic history, but like this one felt different to me for some reason.
Yeah. If you hear a meow, that was my cat. So I think he's just trying to say hi to the listeners. Yeah, no. I also Nope was such an original concept. It wasn't until I really like talked about it with one of my coworkers, that I was like, oh man, I didn't even think about that. Like it sometimes it helps talking with other people to really understand a movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, she made me appreciate it way more, and it was a really like nice. It was a really good movie. I totally recommend The Black Phone to anybody. And Nope is way different. I wouldn't consider it like a horror movie, more
Uh,
sci-fi, but it was still really good.
yeah, very good. Do you know what the acronym is for Nope?
I don't. I didn't even know I had an acronym.
Yeah. Not of planet Earth.
Oh my God. Duh.
I didn't realize it until I was listening to another podcast that they had Jordan Peele in there. He was like,
Oh,
the guy
I didn't
guest
even
on there, and
think
he was like, "Yeah,
about
that's actually
that.
right."
Oh my God, it's freaking genius. And they even talk about it. Well, I don't want to give spoilers for
Yeah,
that
yeah.
one if you
It's a
haven't seen
trippy
it.
movie though. Whoever hasn't seen it yet, you should check it out.
Oh yeah, it was amazing. But the Black Phone for me in particular just hit different. I
Yeah,
really
it wasn't necessarily scary, but just the story itself was just pretty interesting, and it kind of made you guess a couple times on like what's going on. But
Mhm.
it takes you on a journey, that's what I like about the film.
Yeah, yeah. And also like there was a few what are they called? Jump scares. A few jump scares that they were very effective, especially one of them really, really got me. Like I watched it in movie theaters and everybody was like like on unison, whatever, all together. Yeah, yeah. It was really good.
Oh yeah. So this week we're bringing you guys a French film called Raw.
Came out in 2016.
Yeah. So the writer director is Julia I Darkanel. I don't know how to say it. Ducanel.
Ducerno, close
I don't mean to
enough.
butcher her name.
I we totally butchered her name, and I'm sorry to the French people because that's a
Yeah.
hard one for me.
I don't do well. We'll
Yeah,
just call her Julia.
yeah, I'm gonna call her Julia because I do struggle with her last name a little bit.
Yeah, but she's a great writer, obviously,
Hmm.
um, and even a great director. Like, there's a lot to unpack in this movie.
Yeah, she also directed Titan, which is came out 2021, I believe. That movie, that one messed me up. It was I don't really know how to explain it too well. It was just a fucked up film.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to see that. Um, yeah, so I mean, basically, the premise of this film is the overall theme of the movie is about cannibalism. But to an extent, there's a lot more to unpack than just that theme. It's about a lot of different things. So the main character, she is going to vet school, with like a very like prominent vet school that her I think her parents, well, her sister's in there for sure. But her parents, I think, have gone there at one point, I believe.
Yeah. So basically, when if we're getting into the story, her name is
Oh,
Justine. Justine, yeah, she goes into school, and basically the first day they get hazed,
yeah.
and while they're getting hazed, there's this scene. Well, we meet her sister. Yeah. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this sequence shot, and in the interview that we watched by Build series, she says that it they did it on 10, well, they shot it 10 times, and out of the 10, only two were perfect shots.
Hmm.
And I think that's really hard to do because a sequence shot, like when I think of that, is just like one long take, right?
Yep. It's
And
basically like one giant like panoramic scene where like the was I guess like they had a guy like using the camera like kind of like hovering over his head, and
mhm,
then he was like walking through the crowd as she was. So it looked like you were following her because you're following the main
yeah,
character, and
uh-huh.
everyone's drinking and dancing around her and all that stuff, and they have like a shit ton of extras, all around, and they're all assigned to do a certain thing at this point, exact point. So she tried to cut the scenes at one point, like
Mhm.
before they actually like finish the whole scene, but she's like, no, we got to do it in a whole sequence because it just doesn't work otherwise.
I
So
think, so, wait, sorry, what are you gonna say?
well, it took like they had just for prepping time, it was like 5 or 6 hours just to get like everyone on point, like where they had to
Mhm.
be and like talk to every single extra on the set. I'm like, damn, that's a lot of intensity.
That's why I appreciated her so much as a director because that was I mean, I'm new to like enjoying films. I mean, I've enjoyed films for a long time, but trying to actually understand them and unpack them and understand like the art, the technicalities, I'm new to that. So
Yeah,
I honestly didn't really understand what a director did, and I was asking my partner because he is actually a film major, and I was like, okay, so what does a director actually do? Like, do they hold the camera? Do they write the script? And he's like, well, they could do all those things, or sometimes they could just direct. And I'm like, I still don't really understand. He's like, basically, you tell everybody what to do so a movie comes out the way you envisioned it, or the way
yep,
that the screenwriter envisioned it. Like you're bringing something to life. And I thought it was so badass to see like a woman specifically saying, yeah, like the interviewer asked her like, oh, did you find it difficult to tell people what to do, to tell the cinematographer how to handle the camera? And she's like, no, like that was out of the question. Like I think the main point that I was trying to convey was that because I was excited to direct this movie, and even though it was very specific and I had to choreograph hundreds of extras, I was excited about it. And I think that excitement translated into not only the film, but like, well, the crew. So
yeah.
she basically got everybody on board and like told them what to do. And I don't know, I was like, wow, that is some boss ass shit. Like,
Well,
kudos to
yeah, it takes the right person to do that because like
her.
there's
Mm-hmm.
a finesse to it. Like some directors like are tyrants. Like they just like they'll go in and
Kubrick.
yeah, I guess so. Like they just like talk hella shit or like just like degrade you and stuff until you
Mm-hmm.
get it. But like some
Mm-hmm.
directors are just like more friendly or it just really depends on what you're trying to like tell on screen, and like how you are directing these people into telling your story. And it seems like she had a really like she grasped the idea so well that it resonated onto the rest of the crew. So that's why
Mm-hmm.
that whole sequence shot was like on point.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I
I
love that.
totally agree. Yeah, it was amazing. Um, I want to talk a little bit about what she talked about this in the interview that I referenced earlier, but the like she was basically asked like, is your movie a horror film? And she flat out said, no, I don't believe my movie is a horror film. Like, I think it's more of a comedy, a drama, and a little bit of a body genre.
Yeah,
And I did a little like research because I actually studied this film in one of my film classes, and apparently it's like a subgenre called New French Extremity. And I'm going to read to you a little bit about what that means. So it says, while the New French Extremity refers to a stylistically diverse group of films and filmmakers, it has been described as a crossover between sexual decadence, bestial violence, and troubling psychosis. The French Extremity movement has roots in art house and horror cinema, and according to film blogger Matt Smith, it grapples with gender identity as well as body genre, and so the term itself, the new French extremity, it was actually used pejoratively by a critic named James Kwan. So in the beginning, they were saying that, oh, like that's like trash cinema, which is something that horror in general has like dealt with since like its inception.
Yeah.
And basically, these films take a gruesome approach to sex and violence, and some examples include films like Martyrs, In My Skin, High Tension. I want to talk a little bit about Martyrs because I haven't seen it, but I think I heard that it's a really like fucked up movie about like
Mm.
body violence and I think like rape. I'm not sure. I haven't watched it, but I just wanted to talk about since she doesn't consider it technically a horror movie. I wanted to talk a little bit about where technically the genre comes from, which is yeah, New French Extremity, which is such a like fancy name. I think it's because
Yeah.
it's French, really. But just wanted to add that in there.
Yeah, I know nothing about it. So,
No, I didn't know until today. So I did research because I had time.
yeah, I
Now that I'm
was.
not in school, I need to put my degree to work or something, right? I just think it's fun to like do a little research. But yeah,
Yeah,
those are
I
kind of
when he showed me that interview, I was still at work, and then I just finished it, like before we started hitting record, and I was like, what is this genre? But I didn't have time to like look it up because I was only on lunch break when I got to like see, I think like just over half of the interview.
yeah. It was like 30 minutes too, so I get it.
Yeah, so I was like, because I kind of forgot it, at first I was like, oh shit, I should watch it.
No, I honestly thought you weren't even gonna watch it because I was like just sending it to you last minute. But like I said, today your girl had time, so and it also helps that like I took a class and we talked about this movie, so I was able to pull out a lot of things from that class. I actually rewatched the lecture. Um,
Okay.
yeah, so it was pretty interesting.
So
Um,
this movie is just interesting in general because it gives you like the point of view of the cannibalist, instead of just like, and she talks about this in the interview too, because normally like the cannibals are seen as like they or them, like sort of like
mhm,
the background force of the movie, but this one takes you on a journey with the actual person itself. So this one is she. This is a character that is an actual person and not just like some like, and like, because most of the time cannibals are seen as like a monster, or like not a monster but like a,
or savages.
yeah, like savages, like very
Hmm.
animalistic, not very human,
Hmm.
but this one is more of like it felt like more of like a coming of age where she's like,
Yes,
so
yes.
like she's hitting puberty basically,
Hmm.
and that's why her cravings start to come out,
Yeah.
because once she noticed in the start of it, like she's like trying to eat her food but she can't because it's like she's just like not interested in it. So I'm like, huh,
Hmm.
okay, there's already starting to happen before she even gets to the school,
Hmm.
that she can't even like keep down. Well, she never eat. She's a vegetarian at first, so she doesn't even like eat meat, and then she accidentally bites into the meatball and she's like disgusted by it, or
Hmm.
she doesn't bite into it but she like tastes it and she's like, ugh, fuck that, and she like spits it out.
Hmm.
And the mom kind of freaks out. It's like, I'm sick when I'm sick of this, like them messing up or whatever. And I was like, huh, that's interesting. Like,
It's funny because the dad is super chill too. He's like, "Oh, like it's okay, like it's fine." But the mom was the one that was actually freaking out, which I think that's interesting now looking back because towards the end of the movie we learn something super important, and like it totally shifts the whole narrative on its head.
mhm.
So yeah, we know. I think I know why the dad's so chill
Oh
by the
yeah.
end of the movie. Yeah. Um, yeah, so at like when the movie began, because like I said, it's my second time, but it's been a while. It also began with the car crash, and I was like confused. I was like, why are we like watching so many car crashes? It's not until later that like we see like why, and it's because basically, I mean, we should talk about her sister, right? Alexia, I think is her name.
Yeah.
Um, well, I don't know. Should we go through like the whole timeline, or should I just talk about?
We'll just talk about the characters, I guess. Like, so Alexia is already at the what is she, like the second year or third year? I
It
don't
looks
know how that
like
goes
yeah, maybe even a senior. She seems like super like
into the
immersed
program.
into like the culture already, like into the school culture. Like she's actually the one doing part of the hazing even.
Yeah, she's an elder, right? Isn't that what they called him?
Yes, they're called
Yeah.
the elders.
So
And
like she's like top notch. She's like on on the top of the mountain essentially.
she's assimilated completely
Yeah.
into. the vet program.
And so she's introduced at the party scene,
Hmm.
and she's doing her thing. She's shaking that little tush of hers.
She does have a
she's
nice
all
one.
yeah, she's all fucked up. And like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but like later on, you also see her that she's like, when she's sober, she's kind of a dick to her sister. You know,
Well,
like
in the beginning, I feel like since the beginning, she was always like kind of mean to her sister. Even in the initiation, like
yeah,
this is like a pivotal scene in the movie where, and it's the first, like the second day, I think, of the whole hazing week, and everybody's forced to eat. I think it was like a rabbit liver or something,
something like that. Yeah,
something like that. And obviously, Justine didn't want to eat it because she's a vegetarian, so that goes against her beliefs, and she refused. But then her sister comes over and she's like, "You don't want to be a reject. You have to like fit in. You don't want to look like an outsider." So she basically forces her sister to eat the meat. I mean, as much as you could force someone to eat something, right? Coerce, whatever.
yeah, coerce. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's same thing.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So, but wasn't she a vegetarian too growing up?
She was. I think it's
Yeah,
until
until
she came to
the
vet
program.
school. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, so she's the sisters they don't like I guess they had a good relationship prior to that. But I guess like when she's in the program she kind of they've been away from each other for a little while, so that's probably why the relationship's a little strained. Um, maybe not. I don't know. I don't remember exactly how their relationship was before then. I don't know if they talk about it too much, but
I think it was mainly Alexia feeling like her younger sister's like a goody two shoes. Like she's supposed to be like the smart one, the one that does
yeah, well she's
well.
like top of her class too, right?
Yeah,
Because
and I feel like
the teacher hella talks smacked about her
yeah,
like
that teacher was an asshole.
yeah.
He was straight up
um,
mean to Justine.
yeah, he was total dick. Yeah, so like she meets up with the sister, and then she has her roommate, the gay dude. Which I thought it was
Adrian.
interesting that the actor is actually a rapper in France.
Yeah, I learned
I was
that in
like,
the interview
okay,
too.
okay.
I thought it was cool. He got to play like a gay character.
Well, apparently he was excited about it because he was like I think like he's always portrayed as like a thug, you know?
Yeah, it's like a stereotype in
Yeah,
France or
yeah.
something. Yeah.
Like he plays a role, but he's like, no, I want to, switch it up, which I get. I mean,
Yeah,
you don't want to be
totally.
portrayed in one thing, put it
You
in a
also want
box.
to be challenged too. You don't want to be what is it called? Typecast.
Yeah, exactly. So I
Mm.
thought that was pretty cool. But it's so like there's also that weird relationship between the main character and him, even though like he's like hooked up with guys during the movie, but they also have like a weird like love thing kind
Yeah.
of going on where like well not maybe not love, but like they definitely hook up with each other a couple times,
Hmm.
and that's
What
when
I think this is
huh
what I'll go first. I think the sister and Justine are both thirsting for Adrian, but not like sexually. It's more like they actually just want to eat him. That's literally what it is, right?
yeah, because she is biting him like during the first
Mm-hmm.
time they have sex.
Mm-hmm. Which is
Um,
it's so weird to think about like a gay guy having sex with a straight or a woman in general. Like it goes against like everything you think about like gay men. And I think it's kind of trying to like make you uncomfortable, like because like the guy's gay, he obviously doesn't like women, but he was like masturbating to gay porn just
yeah,
before she walked into the room. So he was already like riled up. Yeah, and maybe he's not even fully gay. Maybe it's something that isn't explored. Like we don't know. I think the director kind of asks you to like just like ask questions. Like maybe he's not completely gay. Maybe he's more fluid, or like it doesn't have to be black and white. Who knows? I mean, later on, I think he's pretty like he says like like I'm gay. Like it took 20 years for me to even become comfortable with my sexuality, and then you come in and like yeah. So
yeah,
that whole
the whole
thing,
thing was interesting and well
it was
put.
uncomfortable.
It was very uncomfortable, but
Yeah.
I appreciated like that factor in the whole thing. Um, just just on like the element of storytelling itself. So
Hmm.
I thought it was pretty important because they're all still young. They're all supposed to be what like barely even 20
Yeah,
or
like
something like that. So
barely.
like there's also that like confusion of life itself. Like intersexuality. Like should I be doing this or not?
Hmm.
Like kind of thing, and that
And
kind of
she does
intrigued
lose
me.
her virginity to him too,
Yeah,
which is kind of interesting. Like the again back to the theme of like coming of age. Like she's becoming a woman. Um, but before all this too, like she gets like a super gnarly rash, and
Hmm.
like she goes to see like a nurse, and like the nurse is like, oh no, it's probably fine. You're probably just like nervous.
Food
Like it's probably
poisoning.
just food poisoning. You're growing. She's like asking her all these like invasive questions about like her like sexuality. Like, are you sexually active? And that's kind of how we learned that she's a virgin in the first place. And
Yeah.
like she just gives her like a topical cream, sends her on her way.
Well, there
And
was that weird story too, about like where she like talks about the heavy girl,
mhm.
the doctor. She's like, yeah, and she cried because I didn't mention her weight. I'm like, okay, why are you telling the story
Yeah.
again?
I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit about the medical system, about how they kind of basically don't take you seriously if you're over a certain weight. You
Yeah,
know, they
because
always
all the
say
doctors
like,
told her to lose weight and then like sent her on her way.
yeah, and it was not even anything to do with her weight. It was literally because I forgot what kind of thing she had, but it was totally unrelated.
Yeah.
So I think it's just about the discrimination of it. Yeah, yeah, but the fact that she told Justine, it was like kind of like super unrelated. I think it was just like, oh, what do you see yourself? Like, I think the girl just wanted to be average. Where do you see yourself? And then Justine says, oh, I'm just average. So I don't know, maybe I maybe it's like a saying something about how she's average now, but she's striving to be something better. Or she's still coming into terms with her own femininity, her sexuality, and right now she sees herself as average. But I think like towards like the third act of the movie, she becomes more confident, and she becomes, yeah, like more in tune with womanhood, right?
Oh yeah, like you
Yeah.
totally tell like after like once her like once she kind of not gives in, but once she like just lets
I think it
out,
is gives in. No, I
yeah,
think it is gives in.
like her sexuality and her like her need of I guess, well, maybe not sex, but just like her need of like certain attention and like
Hmm.
and what she wants. Like you can totally, her transformation is pretty drastic.
Yeah.
Like the way she
Do you remember
walks, the way she's like flirting with the guys and stuff.
exactly. Yes, and actually that scene where she goes to visit her sister because they're gonna have a party or something, like the students are gonna have a party, and some girl stops her. She's like, "Are you? What are you gonna wear for the party? Like, you need to dress like a hot girl." And she's like, "I don't have like any clothes like that." And then so she goes to her sister and puts on like this dress and like high heels, and she looks at herself in the mirror and she's like, "It's not me." It's like that's kind of like a metaphor, I guess, for her not feeling comfortable with herself, with her body yet. So yeah, she looks uncomfortable, like she looks like
Well,
out
she
of
puts
place.
the
And then
dress over her regular clothes, doesn't
yes, yes. And I
it?
thought it was so funny because there's a scene too where she's walking in the high heels and it's so awkward. And that kind of reminded me, when if you've ever seen a video of like a calf being born and they're
Oh
stumbling
yeah,
to walk, that made me think of that. Like it's like a juxtaposition between a cattle and then a girl walking in heels for the first time. She's walking literally into adulthood. I was like, whoa, I get it now.
and
Like,
everyone's all looking at her like, what the fuck?
yes, because she looks so awkward. Like she's still not a full woman yet. She's like on her way there. But before you get there, you're gonna be awkward.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good stuff. But
It
well,
is
no,
good stuff.
no, it is because it's told. I mean, the way she wrote it, like it's super apparent.
It's very specific, and like the
Yeah.
shot too of like it was like her lower half of just like the heels and the jeans and her walking awkwardly. Like it was definitely, and there was intention behind that.
So like as you watch the movie, like progressively she starts to like transform, and and you see these things, and it's kind of messed up how like the sister set her up with the dead body, and then like remember how she's like trying to bite the finger, but they like recorded it in the background, and she like embarrasses her in front of the whole school.
Yeah. And like that's Adrian was like the only good friend too. Like he was actually like the homie, even though they already had sex by that time. He
Yeah.
was the only one that like pulled her to the side and he's like, "Hey, look at like check out this video of you. Like you were like basically blacked out, but you were acting like an animal." She was crouched down and everything,
Oh yeah,
trying to
she was
like,
totally like in the
yeah. And the
wolf
sister
pack.
was antagonizing the whole thing.
Yeah, that's pretty shitty. Yeah.
That's so shitty.
Yeah, I was like, down to your own sibling. That's like
Yeah.
that's all bad,
Yeah.
bro.
Hmm.
um, and then that's what led into their fight. What about halfway into the film almost?
I think a little bit later, but I'm gonna backtrack just a little bit. because there's this really cool scene, like it kind of made me go like, ugh, like actually physically, like almost revolt. I want to talk about a scene where her roommate almost catches her eating raw meat in the middle of the night. So she's just like all crouched down, and he like walks in on her, and he asks her like, "Oh, what are you doing? Like, are you just eating a late night snack?" And she says, "Yeah, I'm just trying to eat cereal." And then he's like, "Well, the cereal is on top of the fridge, so like, why are you crouched down? Like, it just making no sense."
Hmm.
So she's just like, "Just leave me alone. I'm trying to get some milk." And then he finally goes to his room, and then that's when you see her eating like her first like piece of like raw chicken, and because she's at this point she already has the rash. She's getting sick. She's nauseous. We turn into like the next scene. Um, I think this is like she has this instance with her cruel teacher, which we already talked about,
Yeah.
how he accuses her of cheating. She's like, "You can't be that smart. Like I know I've heard of your background just because you're esteemed and like you're very privileged. Like I don't really care about any of that." Like he's just like a total asshole. Doesn't take her seriously. And I think that makes her like physically sick hearing all that stuff. And she runs to the restroom. And that's when she starts throwing up. And it's like this thick clump of hair that just like it's long. She's like taking it out of her throat. And it actually physically made me like want to like
Yeah. I wonder
throw
how they.
like
I
I
wonder how they did that. Like, I don't know.
it
It's crazy.
was like I actually made a physical sound. Like what I was just like, oh, that's disgusting. Cause like she was like you can tell it was painful. Like it just yeah, and it reminded me too of the reading because I think there's a scene where there's a some hair coming out of somebody's mouth. Um, yeah, I just thought that was genius. And then when she comes out of the restroom, there's this like random little girl or a teenager, whatever, the same age as her, and she's like, "Oh, two fingers makes it come out easier." And like it just like causes Justine to just like walk out of the restroom like what the fuck just happened?
She's like,
I
okay, thanks, bye.
yeah. So I think like a little bit of what is it called? Eating disorder kind of was mentioned, and I think that kind of ties into what we are talking about earlier about the doctors discriminating against the heavier girl, and yeah. So there's a little bit of that theme, I guess. It's not really like a prominent theme, but it's like an you know yeah.
See, like, was there any context, like, in between that of like what it was though? Because I don't remember like her eating anything besides like that the raw meat.
Yeah, that's what I don't understand. Like the hair, why specifically hair?
Could it have been like the horse's like mane or whatever the thing is? Like, remember? I
Maybe.
don't know.
Yeah, because they do deal with a lot with horses in this movie, which is interesting because I feel like Nope does too. Just no
Yeah.
spoilers. No
Well, and
spoilers.
she like cuts open the dog too all easily. She's like, oh, it's just
Yeah, yeah. Because like that's after she's lost like her virginity and she's become more comfortable with like basically being a cannibal. She she's transformed into like a woman, you could say, and she's more comfortable. Even like when she's cutting that animal, like, and it looks so real because I don't think I saw like a lick of CGI. I don't know if you noticed
nope,
that.
not at all.
I didn't see any CGI. It was all practical effects and like
Which I love.
me too. I think that was kind of underrated in this movie. I don't think I heard anybody really talked about that because I'm always like on the lookout for CGI and sometimes like I said it could be done tastefully. For
Hmm.
example, Stranger Things, I really like have you seen the latest season?
I think I'm nearing the end of this last season. Yeah.
Okay, so I can't say anything, but there's this particularly lovely scene where they do CGI and there's a guitar involved. You guys probably know what I'm talking about. But yeah, so they didn't use any in this movie, and I just thought it was like it looks so real. Like at one point, I was asking myself, "Are these real animals that they're using?" There's no way, right? I mean, I don't know what the laws in France are, but I don't think people care about animals, so I doubt
Yeah.
they're gonna use real ones to be opening up, right? Unless they're actually dead. I don't know. I
Well,
don't
the
know.
dog was the only one that they actually opened up, right?
Uh, Wait a second. Do you remember that disgusting scene that also made me almost want to gag and throw up? Was that scene where the sisters like elbow deep into a horse's
Oh yeah.
straight up all in the busy
Yeah,
and
she was like, wait, she's like, hold up, I'm not done yet.
like they're having it. She's like the Justina's trying to have a normal conversation with her sister. She's like, "Hey, I need to talk to you about something." And then she's like, "Hold up, I'm kind of busy right now." And like as she takes out her arm off the fucking cow, there's like caca coming out.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's also fucking disgusting, man. Like that's body genre. Like it just makes you physically like want to throw up.
Yeah, the giant arm condom.
Oh Jesus. I thought about that too. Like, is that just like a trash bag or is there like a specific thing you need to put on your arm to go in elbow deep into a cow's buzzy? Like, how does that work? What are the logistics? And also I don't want to know.
Yeah, right. I've seen it before in other like programs and shit. Like I'm like, ugh, so gross.
Um
I'm good. I'll
yeah, yeah,
pass.
yeah. So, I forgot what's the point I was even trying to make because I think that kind of threw me for a loop there.
Well, I was mentioning the hair thing, like how the hair thing even happened,
Yeah,
and then we got into the horse and then the animal stuff. But like, yeah, that was definitely a scene where I was like, "Eeh,
that
that
was
sucks."
yeah, that was just I also want to talk about there's this like cute little bonding moment if you want to call it that, where her sister or Justine and her sister are like on a rooftop, just sharing a
Oh
beer
yeah.
like girls do. And then Alexia's like, she's like, oh, hold on, I need to do something. And she like pulls down her pants and starts peeing like standing up. And then Justine's like, what are you doing? She's like, come here, like, let me teach you how to do it. Like this is like part of like I think a theme, right? Like, of living in a male dominated world where
Yeah.
you kind of have to act like a man to survive this world. And I think that's what her sister's been doing. Like she's she threw all her values out the window like the second she got there. And now she's basically trying to get her sister to do the same. And although this scene was pretty funny, I think that was like the intention behind it, like the metaphorical, like I don't know. I think that's yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty funny though, them like
She
pissing
just thrusts her
together.
hips out. Yeah, she's
Yeah.
like,
She's like, if you stand like this, you can actually pee standing
the
up.
Superman pose. Yeah.
Yeah, she was like assumed it all, like super casual, kind of Superman kind of vibe.
I love how Justine just like falls.
Yeah, she was, and that's the funny thing too. She's like still a cab. She's still trying to learn, right?
Yeah.
She's still becoming like she's still coming into her own. And yeah, she falls over. She's like, I got pee all over me.
Well,
And
you're right about the whole like the male dominant thing because like she's like really one of the only like female like elders. Like you don't. I mean, there are some other females, but like you don't. They don't like really talk. They're not really used in the scenes a lot. Like it's
they're really
mostly just
not.
like boys.
I noticed that too.
Like I think that there is a couple, but like it doesn't matter. Like
hmm
probably just because it just mainly focuses on Alexia.
And yeah, you're right. And like Justine and
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, so as we progress, you kind of see like that she's like full on cannibal. Like towards the end where she's well, you get that crazy scene where she's getting waxed and then
I was just gonna talk about that. I was
yeah,
like, we need to talk about that.
so she
Um,
accidentally cuts off Alexia's finger, her middle finger, right?
yeah. Well, I want to put the people into this scene because I think it's really interesting. So first of all, we're exploring the themes of body hair, right? And women,
Mm-hmm.
traditionally women were meant to like shave off everything for the male gaze and whatnot. And there's this scene where like first she starts like Alexa starts plucking out some of the eyebrows from Justine. She's like, let me just get that for you. And Justine's like, well, I don't really see a difference. And then she lifts up her arm, and then her sister notices that she has like a basically a full bush under her armpit.
Yeah.
And she's like, girl, I started Brazilian like waxing since I was like your age. Like you need to get on this. And then like so the next scene we cut right to Justine being on the bed with just her underwear and her pubes basically popping out of the sides of her underwear. And she's about to get a wax by her sister, which to me I was like, holy shit, this is a little too intimate and kind of
Right.
intense and a little bit uncomfortable. But I think that's cool that the director put that in. Like it was very intimate to see two sisters like doing that. Like I don't really know a lot of sisters that would do that. I mean, they would, but
I mean, I've heard like I've heard some sisters are very close like that.
yeah, yeah. Um, I mean, to each their own. I'm not gonna try to judge
Of
like
course, yeah.
other people, right? But yeah, so she basically the sister's like putting wax on Justine, and she the first like couple of like uh waxing scenes, like she's able to do it. But I need to make it a point that when you're watching somebody get their hair wherever it's from, but I think especially from the area ripped apart, you physically want to like contort your body. You're just like, oh, like it just is so uncomfortable because you're putting yourself in the character too. Like, could you imagine if somebody, because people can see you, so if people just like somebody just put wax and then like pull off your beard, like that is so painful.
Yeah.
And just to see it on camera, I'm just like,
It
oh,
just reminded me of
like
like 40-year-old version. I was like, ugh. Like,
I was just gonna say that. It also reminded me of 40-Year-Old Virgin, and I think those scenes were real, by the way.
yeah, yeah,
I forgot if it was improvised or something like that, but it actually, yeah, because you haven't seen his skin like bleeding.
yeah.
But
The Man o' Lantern.
yes, oh my God, that movie's amazing.
Right.
Yeah, it's a classic. Uh, but then she's struggling too. Like she does all that, but then there's like this one particularly difficult spot where she can't take off the pubes.
I think
So
the glue stays on too long. I think that was the
yes,
problem.
or something, right?
I think she like left it on too long because you had to do it like right away almost.
Exactly. And like even the dog is getting curious, trying to sniff Justine's crotch, which I thought was kind of weird, but animals are good animal.
Yeah.
And so she's like, all right, let me try something else. She goes and grabs a pair of scissors to try to cut it off. But Justine is but I thought this was important too, because Justine is like, she's like, no, get off me. She's like, it's my pussy. She specifically said it's my pussy.
Oh,
And
I
I
didn't
think
see that. I didn't hear that.
yeah, that was so powerful for me because I was like, holy shit, like I didn't even like the first time I watched it, I didn't even really like hear it that well. But this time I was really paying attention. She's like, yeah, like this is my body. Like, stop fucking with my body. Like,
Mm,
it's already like she's her sister's trying to change her, but like all of that body hair, that's natural. That's normal. Like that's part of you. If you want to take it out of your body, sure, but that should be on your own terms. And I
yeah.
feel like she's being again coerced. So she says that, but in the heat of that moment, she like flips her sister's hand off and it cuts her finger
Clean off.
clean off, baby. You see the hand and the blood, and then the sister
A lot of
faints.
blood too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, okay. And so like she's freaking out at first, and then she like, she calls 911. She's like, they're like, oh, it's gonna take like 15 minutes or whatever it's gonna. So she's like, oh damn, like that's a lot of time. So she's just sitting there, and she like looking at the finger, and she's like, oh, this looks good.
She like starts playing with it almost, like
yeah,
smelling it. And as soon as she takes a like she just licks the blood, like this music starts playing, like hallelujah. Like she's feeling some type of way, like her insatiable, like now it all makes sense. Like this, it basically everything has come to this moment where like the reason she's been sick and nauseous and has this rash for these weeks is because she's been craving human flesh, but she just didn't know it until this very moment.
yeah,
And it was so funny because watching her eat like the finger, it almost reminded me of like eating a chicken wing.
yep.
You know, when you go to town.
Except a lot
Um,
tougher.
yeah, except I can't. I mean, could you imagine like trying to eat like human meat? Like that's
no.
yeah, me either. And I don't want to think about it too much.
I'm
Uh,
good. I'm good.
but in the mix of all this, like the sister finally wakes up from her like her little faint spell, and she sees like her sister eating her finger, and she's just like, "What the
She's
fuck?"
like, you booch. Yeah.
Yeah, like my finger, not my finger.
Dick.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, basically,
She's like, your pussy. What
and
about my finger?
yeah, there it all heads up.
right.
Um,
So this way ultimately ends like with them fighting. Um, well, actually, no. That happened. That happened after.
yeah.
But
So
like,
I think the
yeah.
parents came basically they were worried, right? Because Justine cut off her finger. So
Hmm.
of course, like that's when your emergency contacts are actually being put to use, and the parents get called over and they go check on the sisters. But I think this is an important scene after this because basically the sister finally decides like, okay, I'm gonna tell my sister like why she's been feeling this way, and she doesn't really know why, but I'm gonna show her. So she takes her to the middle of the road, and she basically jumps in front of a car,
Yep.
and the guy dies like instantly. And this is where I was talking to you about in the beginning about how I was so confused about the car crashes. I was like, I remember seeing this movie, but I really don't remember the car crashes. Like I don't understand like how they come into play. Well, it turns out that her sister the whole time, that's how she was feeding off of people, and that's how she was satiating her craving for human flesh was she was jumping in cars or like just before, getting hit. and killing them and just eating just enough so she wouldn't get like attract like police activity. And I think this was interesting because we never see Justine eating the man. I think it's just a sister that eats because we
Yeah,
see Justine walk away.
she freaks out.
You know, yeah, she freaks out, and I think that's like that's kind of like life kind of presenting you with like a difficult like choice. Like either
Hmm.
you go ahead with this crowd, or you do the thing that you didn't want to, or you assimilate fully into this. Like whatever difficult thing you're going through in like in your life, but you decide to go with whatever go with your gut. Basically, she's just like, I'm not gonna like do that. Like she already knows, she's fully aware that she needs meat, but she decides to not engage with like what her sister was going
Well, yeah,
through.
because she's like murdering people, but by
Exactly. Like,
accident, you know, well, not accident,
yeah.
but like causing them to have an accident
She was
to murder
basically
them.
killing people. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
I mean, she was basically like low key a serial killer. And, and she could have kept getting away with it if it wasn't for those damn meddling kids.
I know,
But
right? Right? Yeah.
yeah, if it wasn't for Justine, basically, I know she got caught. The sister got caught. She ends up in jail. And I mean, we're basically approaching the end of the movie. Oh, actually, no, you wanted to talk about I think we actually glossed over it and we skipped it because we're a little bit out of like the timeline.
Yeah,
But I did want to talk about that scene where Justine and Alexia get into a fight. I
yeah,
forgot
and towards
exactly
well, that was because of
the video.
the video. Yeah, so
Mhm.
they go on a full on fight, and that was before her finger got cut off, right?
I think, yeah,
Yeah,
actually, I think it was. You're right.
Justine tackles Alexia, and they start scuffling around, and Alexia bites the face of Justine, like a little
Hmm.
chunk of it. She's all,
Oh, yeah.
you taste like shit. She spits it out.
That is pretty funny because,
Yeah.
like, later on, like, when she bites the finger out, she's like, "You taste like curry." Which I thought was so funny. Like I
That was
can't
funny. Yeah.
imagine trying to describe what human flesh tastes like to another human being. Like that's so
Well, I
yeah.
bet you like it can. I mean, like it
I mean,
depends on
if
your
you
diet.
season it right, if you cook it right, do you want it medium
Well, I
rare?
mean, you're people can taste differently because of the diets. You know,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's fascinating stuff right there. I'll
that's
tell
not
you what.
weird.
It's so weird to think about. And the thing is, like, I think the director Julia, she actually glossed over about cannibals. She's like, cannibals do exist. Like this is a
Yeah.
real phenomena. Like they are around us. We just don't know it. And I mean, you can use like your preconceived notions of what you think a cannibal looks like, but we really don't know. I mean, I remember that infamous doc that Vice put out about like the cannibal man. I forgot what part of like the country he was from, to be honest, but he ate people and he got like away with it. He's like a free man. I don't know if he died now, but it's a real thing.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, like it doesn't happen as often in like the United States. I mean, it does happen, but like that's
Yeah.
mainly because of like being a serial killer or something like that. You know,
Hmm.
but in other countries, like especially like in third world countries, like it's common within like certain societies of like people, or maybe not so much currently, but like in the past, they would use it because like they felt empowered,
Hmm.
of eating other people. So,
Yeah.
but
I mean,
I mean, it does happen still today. That like,
yeah, I think it still does. I mean, it's like, I mean, now we have social media and we're like, exposed to so much, but I mean,
mm,
outside of the US, like there's a whole world out there that we don't know what goes on, you know? There's remote parts of the world where they don't have social media and even some stuff that you do see on social media, like if you go into like I don't think it's considered a dark web, but like if you go into like the gory websites where you see like narcos getting killed, man, I need to stop
mm,
watching that kind of stuff. That stuff keeps me up at night. You see people like, I mean, I haven't seen people eat meat yet, but I just heard of this case. I think it was in Mexico actually, of this lady who, I think a guy accidentally killed her daughter or something like that, or I don't know if he like raped her or something to the effect that he like basically he did her dirty to the daughter, and the daughter was dead. So then what this lady did is that she went out one night and found where this guy was hanging out and got him like super drunk, and she somehow managed to bring the guy into the house under the pretext that they were gonna have like sex or whatever. And instead what she did was she like tied him up And this is a fucked up part. I would have been okay up until this point. Like, okay, you want to get your vengeance, girl, go off, sis. But instead, what she did is like he found out that the guy had a daughter or a son, and she killed the kid, and then
Mm.
she was feeding the guy pieces of the of
Oh,
his kid's
what?
own. Yeah. So like every
That's
day like
evil.
I that is, and this happened in real life. This happened in Mexico. Um yeah, so every day she was just cooking up the kid and feeding him his own kid. And
Damn.
I yeah, I just it's oh my
That's
God.
pure evil right there.
Yeah, I don't even know how people come up with this. So yeah, if we're talking about cannibalism, maybe you don't even know. Maybe you already ate a piece of meat and you already a piece of someone you don't even know. Like the world is so fucked up.
Yeah. The world's a scary place.
It's a very scary place.
Ugh.
I mean, that's just an anecdote, but I mean, it's an actual case. It's not just an anecdote. It's a real case. Look it up. I forgot the lady's name. I saw it on TikTok, which TikTok needs to chill the fuck out because sometimes it be scaring me. Um, but you should follow me on TikTok too, Just Mel 6, if you know, if you want to see my stuff. But yeah, that's I forgot the point that I was trying to make yet again. But
Well, we were
um,
talking about the end of the film where like you know, they're both full on cannibals, but they both approach it a different way. Like the
hmm.
sister is like totally murdering people.
I
And,
think I
oh,
think in a way that I could describe this too is like the sister giving in to all her urges and Justine kind of suppressing those like raw emotions and
yeah.
saying, you know what, no, like this part of me I have to like contain and I have to keep within me because if I show it into the world, it could be destructive.
Well, but here's the difference between the sisters though is that obviously the older sister is older, so she's been having to deal with this a lot longer, um, or at least by like 3 years or so.
That
Because
is something that I didn't take into consideration, and I think that's a very valid point. Also, I think if we're talking about in terms of relationships between sisters or siblings, it doesn't have to be a sister, it could be a brother. Um, we're talking about, yeah, like you said, an older sister. So the older sister is usually the guinea pig. I'm speaking from experience now. I'm obviously projecting too, that I feel like when you're the older sister, you get the shit end of the stick. Like everything that happens to you in your life, in terms of like how your parents like their parenting style, whatever you want to call it, like you're the trial and error. Like by the last child, I mean it depends. Again, this is very like it on like this. It depends, right?
yeah, yeah,
I just feel like I mean, and then you have the middle kid, but if you're the older kid, like, yeah, you get the shit into the stick. The younger kids, by then, your parents have finally learned that maybe it's not okay to hit them. I don't know. The chancla maybe isn't the best
yeah. Maybe
effective
the belt,
tool.
maybe less belts.
Maybe less belts, less
Yeah,
chanclas. Let's not get too deep into this, but the little kid usually doesn't get like the worst of the. It could be physical, it could be verbal.
yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's an interesting point that I did not even consider at all. I think that gives more like I could feel for Alexia more because I feel like I empathize more with Justine than I did with Alexia.
Oh, for sure. And also, like you can tell, like who has what traits. So, like obviously, we find out that there is a genetic thing, right? So, um, I mean, I don't want to. I didn't really want to give out too much, but like,
We already did.
oh yeah, I guess so. So at the end we find out that the mom has had this the entire time, and that she attacks the dad like pretty frequently. So he's got scars all over his body, even like open wounds still. Like she still like does it to him, and so like, we know that like the sister's been having to deal with it longer, and they still haven't figured out how to like suppress that thing. But you can
Mhm.
tell that like the younger daughter has more of the father's genetics because he's able to like because you know how calm and collective he is. Like she's able to control it a little bit better than her sister is because the sister's like obviously killing people
Mhm.
and eating them. Like we find out at the end that she eats Alex. Like her basically is his most of his leg, and then
I
he actually
agree.
also she stabs him too with the ski like poke thing or whatever.
We need you can't just gloss over that scene. You have to describe that scene
Yeah.
because
So
that
at
scene
the end of the
fucked me
film,
up.
she wakes up next to Alex. Justine wakes up next to Alex, and she's like, "Oh, like good morning, like like I'll kind of love you," and he's like not responding. So she's like, what the fuck? So she like reaches down into the blanket and she feels blood and she's like, oh, what the fuck? So she uncovers the blanket and like most of his leg is just eaten like raw. And and she's like,
No
yeah,
pun
no point
intended.
intended. Yeah. So she she's all the fuck, and
That's
and
raw, baby.
yeah. So she's freaking out, and she like kind of like she's trying to wake him up. She's like, wake up, wake up, wake up! And he's dead. He's bleeding out of his mouth too.
I think I wanted to describe that leg scene a little bit more though, because I think that first of all, I know you're trying to be you're hesitant about giving spoilers, but I feel like this podcast is more for people who have already watched this movie, and I don't know, maybe we should give like spoiler alerts like before we even like, get to what we're talking about. So I guess we already spoiled everything, but here's another spoiler. If you don't want to hear this, close your ears or turn off the computer, whatever. Um, when she lifts up the blanket, like you see his thigh exposed, and you can see tendons, you can see his bone, and I'm just like,
Hmm.
that is again. I physically like even right now, just describing it, I'm physically cringing because I'm just like, oh, like it's so uncomfy. Like just seeing that whole scene, it's all bloody too, and like, and it also I'm sad because I really liked Adrian. I feel like
Yeah, I thought he was great.
he was such a good like character in this movie. Like they wrote him so well, and like actually you care about him, and just and also like this other thing that we didn't really talk about was the fact that oh I think we did mention this, but Justine and Alexia were kind of fighting for Adrian.
Hmm.
Like Justine the whole time she's like telling Adrian like, "Oh, why are you hanging out with my sister? Like you guys are cool now. Like you have her number. Like that's weird." Like she's getting uncomfortable. She's like,
Yeah,
and she's like, "Relax, dude. Like that you said he was gay, so like why does it
but
matter?"
it's funny like they're tripping over it because like even though he's gay, like he's still kind of a player.
Yeah,
Like he's like he like plays on like hella like dudes too. Like
yeah,
they should have like kind of already known like he's not gonna like stick around for just one person. Like he's
exactly.
having fun. He's young. He's like going through this program. He's
And
like
attractive too, I might add. I'm just saying.
he's a handsome man. I can't deny that.
Yeah, exactly. He's young and attractive, okay.
Yeah,
Um, but
like
I think,
coming from a solid five, he's pretty attractive.
yeah,
So,
no, yeah, he was, I really liked him. So the fact that like they killed him, but it's almost like they're playing with their food, kind of. It's like
hmm
you
well,
think of like,
especially Justine, yeah, or not Justine, not
yes,
Justine, but Alexia.
Alex, yeah.
Yeah,
You think of like put yourself in this scene like you're two cubs fighting for literally a piece of meat. That's exactly what's going on here. They're basically like it's like a tug of war between like who's gonna eat Adrian and I, and obviously Justine is a good enough person to be like I'm not gonna eat my friend, dude. And um uh Alexia obviously doesn't have this willpower to say no to her urges. She just like straight up eats, and she uses. You're right. You talked about this like that rod or whatever tool. That's like a tool that they use with the cows, right? If I'm not
oh
mistaken.
yeah.
So again, it's like this whole theme of like the like treating like we're all animals at the end of the day. We're just being branded and like everything has intention in this movie. Like she didn't leave like a hair out of place, and yeah,
Well, and obviously she like killed him before she started eating him. So she stabbed him first to make sure that he was already dead, and then
so he couldn't fight back.
so he couldn't fight back, and then just
Mm-hmm.
started devouring on him. And then she goes into this weird trance at the end where she's like playing the video game, like she's like finally like I guess like eating all that meat was like very like it just put her in like a euphoric state.
Mm-hmm.
So she was like playing the video game and she was like totally out of it. And that's when you see like even though like Justine's like hurt and she's like disappointed, she still like helps her sister clean up and like
That was
you
a
know
beautiful bonding moment because like
yeah,
she picked up the rod and she pointed it right at her sister's forehead, and I thought she was gonna like straight up stab her sister.
that's what I thought too.
Like how could you do this? Like you killed my friend, like fuck you, you don't deserve to die for killing somebody. But it's at then again, like the part of it's like the humanity, right? I think that's what Julia talked about, like still maintaining your humanity, even in the context of cannibalism, which is like a crazy like theme to try to humanize, but she didn't kill her sister. She decided to instead walk her into the shower
Clean
and
her up.
bathe her. And it's almost like they became little girls. Like, like you hear about this when you're a little kid, like you bathe with your sibling, and it was like that moment where they both kind of like were washing away like all that blood, and it reminded me personally of like when you're on your period. You're not, you obviously don't get a period. If you did, I mean that'd be amazing. But yeah, you see all like the blood gush down like the drain. It's just like I feel like a theme in our podcast is period. Interesting.
Well, guys, it's that time of the month.
Um,
We've been gone
yeah,
for a month too, so.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's, we were just PMSing a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the movie ends and you see like the beautiful, like the raw, the title.
Well, and I
But
thought it was interesting too. Like, as she's in prison, like, the family's visiting her. Like, they still like kind of like tease each other. Like, obviously, like she like kisses her on the cheek, or
yeah.
with her biting, and then her like kind of like flipping her off with her her missing finger.
They still have love for each other because at the
Yeah,
end of the day, they're still sisters. Like it's. I feel like it's exploring that like sisterhood. Like sometimes you will be at each other's necks. Like one day you hate each other, you literally want to kill each other, but then the next day you're like best friends. You love each
yeah.
other so much you would ride or die. Like no matter what, you were gonna ride or die for your sibling.
Well, and plus, like, there's that understanding of like they know the urges, so like they understand. Like even though they went through all this shit, like this really bad, horrible stuff, like they know the urges were too powerful to like be mad at you, like because you're not in the right mind. So I
Yeah,
think
you're
that's
really
kind
not.
of I kind of think that's why they bonded at the end too, because they're like, I know you didn't mean, like, I know you didn't want to do that. It was just like you had to do it, because
It's innate. It's
yeah.
just part of you. And like that's why that scene too of like the dad at the end, and we already talked about it, but I just kind of want to bring it up again.
Mhm.
Where he has like just seen obviously like she goes back home because of this traumatizing event, and she's having like lunch or breakfast with her dad, and her dad's like, well, your mom used to be just like your sister and just like you, and and the Justine's like, really, like I didn't know that. And then that's when he like kind of casually points to his lip, and you can see like part of his lip is actually missing, but it's like scarred now because it's healed. And then
Yeah.
he goes on further to like basically rip his shirt up
He
open.
buttons his shirt, and then like he opens it, and there's just like gashes on him still, like
Mhm.
even like fresh ones too.
Fresh ones is very important to add because he tells her, "I'm sure you'll find your solution." Like this is basically saying like you're gonna have these urges where you're gonna have to find your way around them.
Yep.
And it's kind of like interesting, like he was putting up with his own wife, like taking bites out of him whenever she gets cravings, and then these bites heal, but it's like part of her, like she's not suppressing it completely, but she's not letting the beast out. It's just in little doses for her to live like a seemingly normal average life, right?
Well, it's better him than somebody else, right?
Yeah, exactly.
and
That's a
then,
very
that's the point of it too. Is like he loves her so much that he's willing to sacrifice parts of his body to give her what she needs,
I
because
mean, that's
otherwise
just
she's
so
not.
beautiful too. I mean, that's so romantic. I'm just like, wow, like
As
loving this.
fucked up as that is, it's like, yeah,
Yeah,
that's what you
it
have
is fucked up.
to.
Yeah, I mean, he's willing to put up with that side of her, and I think, I mean, if you think about this in terms of like this not being a film about cannibal, but instead a film about raw emotions and about a woman coming of age or
hmm
just a person coming of age, you think about um, maybe he's not putting up with somebody taking literal pieces of his skin, but maybe he's putting up with like maybe she's like an erratic person who's always insulting him, but he knows that deep down, like, oh, maybe it's just her mental illness that's making her speak this way. But at the end of the day, I accept her and I know who she really is. This is not all of her. This little part of her is not everything. And I love her for everything she is. And I mean that's just beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind
That's
of fucked up still.
it's, yeah, you can't. It's hard to get around the kind of yeah, like
But yeah, the sentiments are definitely there. It's like, you just have to go roll with the punches and the bites.
quite
that,
literally.
that's some like extra kinky shit there. I don't
Yeah, yeah,
know.
yeah.
bite me harder. Bite me harder.
And to the point that you're taking a piece of skin off and you're bleeding and there's a pool of blood.
hmm Ugh.
Oh, thank you. But to each their own. Again, if you're into
Yeah,
that,
I
you're
mean, hey. Oh, you know what I
do
thought
you.
it was funny too? Like, to tell like very briefly on kinks. I saw a very brief scene, like I think at the party scene, the second party scene, where like she's like giving into her urges.
Uh-huh.
There was a scene where this girl is like licking this guy's eyeball, and
I saw
yeah,
that.
and I didn't know that was a kink until um years ago. Like somebody told me that this girl was like into that particular thing. So
Oh,
she like asked to do that to him. And he's like, oh fuck it, whatever. So she was like licking his eyeball. And she got off on it.
wow. You see,
Yeah.
I know that.
Uh huh. That's a thing.
I don't doubt it. I mean, the fact that it was included into a movie means, it's probably a real thing. It is a real thing, obviously. With to me, it made me think of this. When I used to be on Tumblr, there was this like animation, and it was somebody licking an eyeball. So I think it is a thing. Yeah,
Oh,
that
for
makes
sure.
sense. I've seen it around, but I actually didn't give it like it made me uncomfortable though, like seeing somebody get their eyeball licked. Like that thing that's just so. I'm sorry, I don't want to king shame anybody, but like the tongue, like I mean, yeah, I don't want, yeah. I mean, your eye like sensitive. I'm really worried about eyes too because I myself like I can't see, so
It's got to be like the saltiness or something.
I just I get so uncomfortable, especially with like monkey,
Just saying though.
yeah, monkeypox. Like it's like a thing right now, and like COVID and like all that. Like I just can't imagine like that's like so intimate. But I mean, like I said, to each their own. If they're
Hmm.
consenting adults, do whatever you want as long as you're
Yeah, I don't get it either, but it's fine. You do you.
you do you, boo.
You do
Yeah.
you, Boo Boo Kitty. That's cool.
Yeah. You have fun with that.
Yeah. Anywho, this was Raw. This was a very unique film. It's like she said, the director said, and pretty much most people that watch it. It's not really a horror film. It's more of like I guess like a.
A mix of genres.
It's definitely a mixed genre of like you know, I guess elements of horror. They said on the interview the guy said it was a comedy, but I didn't really laugh at any of the parts.
There was some funny scenes. There was like only like one scene that actually made me laugh, and honestly, I can't even like remember it. But
Yeah,
they were
there was
memorable.
one. I think there was one that I kind of laughed at, but I forgot what it was too. But a lot of drama and like sort of the coming of age and stuff. I don't know, but it was just a good film in general. Very like artistic, and I like that.
Yeah,
The storytelling was excellent. I felt.
yeah, I agree with that.
Um, yeah, so I don't know. I don't know how I'd rate this film, but
Like out of 10, I think I would give it like an 8, like a solid 8 or a 7. Yeah, 7.98. Let's say 8
yeah,
though.
I'll okay. I'll say like it's 7, teetering towards 8. So we'll say like 7.5 probably.
Yeah,
It's a solid film. I'm not. I don't. There's not a lot. It's just a good film. That's.
yeah.
It's not the. It's not like it didn't blow my mind, but I was
Not
like,
like my favorite like movie, but I think
yeah.
it's like a very interesting movie. I think you definitely I think have to be a little bit more patient because I feel like if you saw it like on the first watch, you'd probably be like you
It
would
is a little slow and like, but
mm,
the storytelling is like very there. Is very good.
mm,
But it takes you for a slow ride. But I
yeah.
appreciate that.
Mhm. And some people are not into that, and I totally get it. Like,
Yeah. So well, some films pull it off, some don't.
mhm.
So no, yeah, I definitely enjoy this. I recommend to those that are willing to watch a slow ride, then
And it's
watch it.
French, so you also have to put up with subtitles. So
Yeah, that's true. And
yeah.
I don't do well with like French stuff, so
Mhm. Mhm.
but it's a very good film. The director is very great. The writer, writer slash director, she's great. I
She's
love
awesome.
her. I love her work.
I love her too. T10. We should talk about that one next. Because if this movie made you feel uncomfortable, T10 is gonna make you feel uncomfortable from beginning to end.
Mm.
That's all I'll say.
Yeah, we'll do that one in the future for sure.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, and until then, you can follow me on Instagram at Cali_DTO or on uh, TikTok, CaliDTO408. Those are my two main socials I'm on daily. So,
I would
and
say, for me, just Mal6 on TikTok. Yeah, I post spooky hauls right now. That's what I'm really into because it's spooky season
oh,
is
I love it.
on us. So I'm excited. I hope you're excited. I hope we're all excited.
My favorite time of the year.
Yes, me too. And we should probably do something special for Halloween
I
time.
think
For
we should hammer out a bunch of different like classic films and stuff.
yeah, we have to do the classics. And
We
Halloween,
have to do like Spooktober or something.
yes, Halloween Ends is coming out in October. I
Hmm.
saw the preview. I'm pretty excited. They didn't say exactly what day. It might be out by then, but yeah, October time. I
Totally
am
gonna watch that.
excited.
Hell yeah! All right.
Yeah, yeah, brother.
Until then, guys, we'll see you next weekish or so.
We hope so. I
We
think
hope
we
so.
will.
I think we have time now. So anyway, we'll see you guys next time. Bye.